Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Draft Geek Prospect Review. I'm Brian Johannes, and if you're new to these, what we like to do is take a look at how the top NFL draft prospects did in this past Saturday's game, provide highlights, and just kind of talk about, and so you can kind of keep up with these as the season goes on, just to see how these prospects have been doing. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get started. The top game of the day was Alabama versus LSU. Alabama traveling to LSU. Matchup of number 1 versus number 3 in the college football standings. Huge, big time game. But it ended up being kind of a one-way route. Alabama ended up winning 29-0. Just dominated this game, continuing to show that they are clearly the best team in college football, bar none. It wasn't the best game statistically for a lot of these prospects. Damian Harris, the Alabama running back, had 19 carries for 107 yards and a touchdown. Continuing to prove that he's one of the top top running back prospects that maybe a lot of people don't talk about. Explosive runner. Irv Smith, the athletic tight end for Alabama, he had 64 yards and a touchdown. Much like a lot of Alabama's tight ends, including O.J. Howard, profile is much better to the NFL. Doesn't have that high production just because of the offense, but he's an athletic matchup nightmare at tight end. Probably the guy that had the best game here was sophomore defensive tackle Quinnen Williams. He had 10 tackles, 2.5 sacks. He was just all over, just destroying LSU's offensive line. Showing strong hands, showing burst to get into the backfield, and he was just living in LSU's backfield the entire game. A big reason why Nick Brossette, the LSU running back, only had 7 carries for 5 yards. He was rendered completely ineffective. We've seen this a lot. Leonard Fournette was the Heisman frontrunner a few years back, came into this Alabama game and just got totally shut out. Brossette was never on that Heisman level, but once again, he was one of the best running backs in the SEC this year. Completely shut down against this defensive line that includes Quinnen Williams, Isaiah Buggs, Raekwon Davis, not to mention Mack Wilson at linebacker. Devin White was suspended the first half of this game, but he didn't let that stop him. He had 8 tackles in that second half. Once again, he's a big time player, someone definitely keep an eye on. But I don't think him being there in the first half would have done much good. Moving on, the next big game that I wanted to feature was Penn State, Michigan. Michigan won 42-7, just kind of dominated. Michigan's defense continues to prove that, if not for Alabama, they might be the best defense in college football. They completely shut down Trace McSorley. McSorley only completed 5 of 13 passes for 83 yards. He had an interception that was a pick six. I know a lot of people have been high on Trace McSorley. He's got a lot of Baker Mayfield comparisons. It's not close. He's not the type of player that Baker Mayfield is. Similar stature. Very good college quarterback. Not a very good NFL draft prospect. As I said, the Michigan defense was good. Devin Bush, their star inside linebacker, had 7 tackles. Chase Winovich had a sack. Rashawn Gary made his reemergence. He didn't have a huge game, but he's back on the field. There was some saying that, is he kind of saving himself for the NFL draft? He got hurt earlier in the season and hasn't been playing much, and some people say, oh, he's just sitting out. He came back. That's going to be big for them moving forward. If they want to win a national championship, they need a dominant Rashawn Gary. For Michigan's offense, Karan Higdon continues to shine. 20 carries, 132 yards, and a touchdown. I mentioned earlier Damian Harris doesn't get a lot of play. Karan Higdon doesn't get any play, and he's just going out there week after week, reeling off big runs, continuing to just churn out big yards, and a big reason why their offense is having so much success. Not to mention that Shea Patterson continues to play well. He only completed 11 of 17 passes, 65%. But with Higdon and this offense and the defense playing so well, he didn't have to have a big game. He had 144 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 42 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown. He's gotten better every week. I still don't think he's going to be a first-round pick. I still don't think he's going to be one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in this draft, even if he does come out But he's getting better, and I think if he comes back again next year, he's only going to improve. And this guy's, he's a guy that next year, maybe as a senior, he's a guy that's kind of flirting in that Will Grier type, late second round, day 2 guy. And, who knows? Maybe he goes on to be a solid backup. Maybe he's the CJ Beathard, maybe the, that guy that gets drafted a lot earlier than some people say and sticks around. Georgia and Kentucky also was kicked off at 2:30 in that afternoon time slot. Battle of top 10 ranked teams. Georgia just cruised in this game, 30-17. Elijah Holyfield, the son of Evander Holyfield, continues to really kind of shine. Not a lot was thought of him. They had Nick Chubb, they had Sony Michel last year. DeAndre Swift was that third guy, and you thought he'd just come in. And Holyfield, is definitely someone to keep an eye on. He's a junior. Be curious to see if he comes out or not. I think probably stays. But he had 18 carries for 115 yards and a touchdown, continuing to ball out this year. Georgia's offense was pretty run-oriented, and that took a lot away from Josh Allen, the star Kentucky pass rusher. I just did a NFL Draft Geek film review on him, highlighting his skills, and he was kind of rendered, not ineffective, but when he's not be able to rush the passer, that's the best thing that he does. He did recover 2 fumbles, so that was good, but you would have liked to hopefully seen him see some sacks, so I can't wait to go watch this tape to see how he did against the run and in his limited pass rushes. I mentioned Elijah Holyfield earlier. Benny Snell, Kentucky's running back, 20 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown, so not a terrible game for Snell, but he had his work cut out for him against this good Georgia defense. Moving over to the West Coast, we had Washington State take on Cal. Washington State won 19-13, kind of a low-scoring affair for the Cougars. Gardner Minshew is kind of a quarterback we've been keeping our eye on just because of where he's come out of from basically nowhere. He was 35 for 51 for 334 yards, a touchdown and interception. He gutted out a win, and this is a good sign for not only Washington State, but you can see Minshew, doesn't have his best stuff necessarily, but was still able to help lead his team to a victory. Not a cannon for an arm, but definitely an accurate passer, and can really get the ball to the place where his receivers need to make the plays. Going back to the East Coast in the SEC, we saw Missouri knock off Florida 38-17. In this whole run-up, I had said, Drew Lock does well against the bad teams, struggles against the good defenses at least. This was kind of against that grain. He completed 24 for 32 passes, 75%, for 250 yards, 3 touchdowns, and they got the win. That's the biggest thing. So that was a big game for Drew Lock. He's trying to still make him, himself that first-round pick that he was getting hyped up to be at the beginning of the year. I still don't think he's there, but this game definitely helps. He got his one of his best receiver back in Emmanuel Hall, who'd been hurt and missed the last several games. He returned, had 77 yards and a touchdown. He was a 6'3", 195-pound receiver, senior, so keep an eye on him. Now that he's back, get some game tape on him and see where he can go. Probably a day 3 pick, though. Alberto Okwugabum, hopefully I pronounced that right, had a 46 yards and a touchdown. One of the better tight ends in this class. He's only a redshirt sophomore. So he's draft eligible. We'll be curious to see what he does, especially if, with Drew Lock leaving. Does he test the waters? Surprisingly good tight end class that's filled with underclassmen. West Virginia came back late to win 42-41 over Texas. Will Grier continues to shine. He had a few bad games the last couple weeks, but really shined here. 28 for 42, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns. David Sills was his main target. He had 6 catches for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns. Grier just got back to what he was doing right, just distributing the ball, putting the ball in its place for his receivers to make the catches. He had a pass to Will Grier towards the corner of the end zone, just putting it where he can go up and make that play. And that's Grier's strength. He's not going to wow you with his arm strength, and he can get the ball downfield, but he's a much better touch and anticipation thrower, and it's good to see him back on that track and winning that way. All right, Arizona State beat Utah, knocked off the top 20 ranked Utes, 38-20. For Utah, Zach Moss is a running back to kind of keep an eye on. He had 18 carries for 128 yards and a touchdown. He had a tough run along the goal line. In this running back class that's got talent but lacks at elite guys, here's definitely a player to kind of keep an eye on, watch out for, and maybe dive into his tape to see what he has. But if we're talking this game, we got to talk about N'Keal Harry. He balled out 9 catches for 161 yards and 3 touchdowns. Just once again showing not only his catching radius and his contested catching skills going up and out jumping the receivers for the ball, but he was able to get some yardage with, some separation in his routes. We saw him get kind of a in-breaking route over the middle that he was able to catch and run in for a touchdown. We saw along the goal line, he faked the fade route and then cut in on a slant for a wide open touchdown. So I'm still a big N'Keal Harry fan. I don't know if he's a top 10 overall pick, but I think in the middle, that 10 to 20 range, he could definitely go. But I have a hard time, if he declares, seeing him fall out of the first round. Speaking of receivers, we go to Iowa State, Kansas. Iowa State won 27-3. Hakeem Butler is a guy that you need to keep an eye on. Big, 6'3", 6'4", extremely long arms. I was talking to a former Iowa State player that I know that was talking to him the other day, and he said he's got some of the longest arms he's seen out of a receiver. He had 5 catches for 164 yards and a touchdown, a highlight reel catch where he was able to sky up, catch it over the defender, come down, whip the defender out of the way, and then run in for a touchdown. And you just could see extremely good catching radius. He's got good agility. He can adjust to the ball. He's not a stiff, big type receiver like they had last year in Allen Lazard. This guy's got a lot of potential, and I can't wait to see more of his tape. I'd be really curious to see if he declares or not. I would not be shocked if Hakeem Butler's the top-rated wide receiver in this class when it's all said and done, if he declares. The matchup that I highlighted coming into this game was David Montgomery versus Kansas linebacker Joe Dinan and defensive tackle Daniel Wise. And you almost got to wonder if Dinan gets the win here. Montgomery had 14 carries for 64 yards, so it wasn't the best statistical game for him. But Dinan had 14 tackles in this game. He is a tackling machine. I know Logan Fredrickson, one of our other writers for NFL Draft Geek, absolutely loves Joe Dinan. And he made his case here against a good running back that's shifty, tough to bring down. 14 tackles is pretty impressive. So make sure you keep an eye on Dinan. He's probably along the lines of the Josie Jewell type guys that are, not the best athletes. They're not a Devin White, Devin Bush type athlete, but you put them in, in a phone booth, they're going to make plays, and he's going to have a long NFL career. Well, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell for more notifications, or at least just hit the subscribe button. If you're listening to this on the podcast, make sure you rate and review. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. And make sure you're following me at draft_Brian, at NFL Draft Geek, on all your social media levels. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed.